I'm like, are they even friends? Do they even like each other? A period of unhappiness began. I got fat. Hey guys, welcome back to another reading vlog. This time I'm going to try to challenge myself to read 100 pages a day for the next few days. It is Friday right now, and I want to read 100 pages through the weekend, probably try to do it Monday, Tuesday. I'm doing this because I feel like of course I do read. I try to read almost every day, but I don't read a lot. I get really distracted by social media, by other things, and things that, should not be taking up my time. So I want to really just focus on like reading. I was thinking about doing 200 pages, but the lineup I have, which I really don't have a lineup for books, but I do know I'm going to try to read 2. One of them I'm buddy reading with my friend is Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. She is also the author of Wild Dark Shore, which I haven't read yet, but I know that made its rounds online recently for a while. So depending on how much I like this book will probably determine if I'm going to read that next or just in the future. But reading the blurb on the back of Once There Were Wolves, it's about a conservationist named Inti. I think that's her name, I-N-T-I. She is with a team, and they're trying to bring wild wolves back into the Scottish Highlands, which that area I don't think has had wolves in a minute. And they're doing that to boost the ecosystem there. I think there is just like too many deers eating, all of the sprouts or like seedlings. And so a lot of things are not growing there anymore. From my understanding, I think she also might be getting backlash because the locals are worried about the safety of their kids. And then they're also concerned about their livestock because that area has a lot of farmers. And I guess because there hasn't been like a huge predator, they don't really like have fences or protective measures to kind of block off any predators. What I read on the back, I think there's also like a murder mystery. I think someone dies, some local there dies, and I think the timing of it is suspicious because it's, as the wolves are being introduced into the wild in the Scottish Highlands. So I imagine there's going to be a lot of friction between her team, the locals, and trying to figure out, if there is any connection. We are going to start reading that for our next buddy read. And then the second book, which I've been reading for a little bit, is The White Book by Han Kang. I am unsure if I will finish that just because I do want to take my time with that book. As I've said before, I think like 30 pages into The White Book, but I'll try to pick up something else as well because I know that the Once There Were Wolves, I think that's about like 260, 70 pages. So I know I will finish that pretty quickly within this challenge. Also, if I do read over the 100 pages, I'm not going to count the extra pages into like my next day. It's just going to be once 100 pages is done. If I read over it, I read over it. It doesn't bleed into the next day. So then I still have to read 100 pages just so like, I don't try to like binge all the pages plus some, and then the next few days I don't read anything because I've already finished the challenge. So got to read 100 pages every day. Doesn't matter if I read over. But yeah, I thought it would be fun to read and just kind of not really do much anything else in terms of hobby and just focus on reading. We'll see if I successfully do this challenge or not, but I am pretty excited to read this week, so hopefully I do succeed. This is my version of a brown sugar shaken espresso pumpkin spice drink, I guess. I don't really use brown sugar that much, so we were just using monk fruit, the golden kind. And then I really wanted to try pumpkin spice in my coffees. I've never had pumpkin spice before in a coffee, so I thought I could try this here. So I got this. I don't think I'm like the biggest flavored coffee. I literally just like stevia latte and some milk, and that's it. But we'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll be a changed person after this. I feel like this is like kind of, you know, not typical. I feel like as a Sagittarius, I would enjoy wanting to try different things, but I really don't. So we'll see what this tastes like. I don't know how I feel about pumpkin spice. Maybe it's just still too hot outside. Maybe I need to be like in more autumn. But I feel like if I have this warm, I would actually hate it more. I don't know. I used very little because I feel like this is a very strong flavor, and for sure it's pretty strong in here. I don't know. I think I just have to experiment with the different ratios of everything. Our friends from New York were so sweet when they came to visit. They brought us so many bagels. They brought bagels for everyone to eat for like 3 days, and there was like 11 of us, so it was quite a trek to bring pounds of bagels for us. And this is just the leftovers. I have been eating them almost every morning, and we are down to our last one that I'm gonna let my husband have because I've been eating all of these. These are just the plain ones, but I think the last one we have is like a sesame, which I'm not super interested in, so it's okay. I'm willing to make that sacrifice. So I did successfully read 100 pages yesterday. I read 149 pages. The beginning of, wait, did I even tell you what book? It's Once There Were Wolves. That's what it's called? I always get confused if it's Once There Were Wolves, There Were Once Wolves. Once There Were Wolves. Okay. The beginning of that book was just a little bit hard to get into. I think it's the writing style. I did have a little bit of concerns if I was going to be able to read 100 pages. Once I got maybe like 100 pages in, we started getting all of the different storylines and also not knowing like exactly what's going on or what happened in the past, what happened to some characters. And so there's a lot of mystery just surrounding everything. I got a little bit more used to the writing style. I think it's really just reflecting the main characters, I guess, like sort of jadedness that she has become because of some events, which I'm still not like 100% sure exactly what happened, but you can kind of guess with a lot of context surrounding it. This morning I read a little bit. Then my sister and my niece came and we had like a little pool day outside. And so we hung out for a few hours. I read up until page 200. So I read what, like 51 pages? 40, no. What is that? 149, 200. That's 51 pages, right? I'm not stupid. That's 51. Okay. So I have a little less than 50 pages to read today. It's getting pretty good. We finally got a little bit more into the murder mystery, figuring out who it could possibly be and what the motive was behind it. We're also getting more development in the wolves themselves. So you kind of get more information and all of their different packs, and you kind of like figure out where they're going, what they've been up to. So far, I'm really enjoying it. Again, sometimes the writing style doesn't really hit for me, but I think I'm over that now just because there's just so much going on and don't really know what's going to be happening. I'm a pretty slow reader, so I think I read like 30 pages in an hour, which I know is like really slow, but what can you do? I don't think I can read any faster. There is a chance I might just finish this book if the total pages is like what, 260, 270? I think that's how many pages are in this book. It's been 20 hours since I have been on any social media outside of YouTube. I don't consider YouTube a doom scrolling social media, like Instagram and TikTok, definitely. So I've been out of that for 20 hours now, which has been helping. That's been a kind of a really great motivator for me to keep reading the 100 pages. And since this morning I didn't have social media to doom scroll in the morning, I did just pick up my book and read, which is great. And again, to some people that might not be an issue that they have, but for me, I just feel like I have been prioritizing like scrolling or being on my phone first thing in the morning. And especially when I have been like busy throughout the week, sometimes I just want to, clock out of my own brain. And social media is like the perfect way to do that. And I'm just trying to break that habit. But yeah, I'm going to keep reading for the rest of the day and hopefully get the rest of my 49 pages done. I just showered, so I look a little rough. Don't have any makeup on. My hair's not done. But anyways, I finished my 100 pages yesterday, and I went ahead and finished once there were wolves because there was maybe like 5 pages left after my 100 pages, so might as well just finish it. And my thoughts on that book Overall, I really enjoyed it. I think there was a lot of suspense, but also there was just a lot of messaging around like trauma, violence, and the impacts of humans, or the impact humans have on the environment, ecological systems, things like that. I think the author did a really good job in keeping me as a reader just in suspense, but also not knowing exactly what all was going to be revealed. So there is like a murder mystery aspect of the story, and you're just learning about a lot of characters, possible culprits, and the way that she frames culprits is really well done in my opinion. I think there was just like a lot of reveals and a lot of questions of, does this person even exist, or who did it. The main part of the story was NT bringing wolves into the Scottish Highlands to regrow and reflourish that ecosystem. And of course there's like backlash, but there's also like support on that as well, because boosting like specific ecosystems will then hopefully like slow down climate change. I really enjoyed the parallels that we have of like violence on the environment, violence on humans, and how those actions then echo outside of just us, like the person that it directly affected, and just creates waves throughout the whole community. So that in itself, I think the messaging in that was really strong. There was one chapter that I was not the biggest fan of. I think we're always questioning, talking and speaking about violence, trauma, and how much we should censor, how much we shouldn't censor, because in reality, a lot of these things are not wholly fiction. Most of the time is rooted in some type of reality. And I think it just really threw me off, because I assumed with all of the context, there's like a lot of flashbacks. There is a lot of talking about an event. And I thought that was just sort of it. Like, we didn't really need to get into details about exactly what happened, because like with all the context, with all of the history, it was just sort of assumed. Like, we knew exactly what happened. But I was just like really thrown off that we were going to get right into it. So I don't know. I think it was just like a little unexpected on my end. I can't really say like we shouldn't censor some types of violence, because in order to make it more palatable, right? The pacing of the book, I think, was really well done in the beginning and middle. The end was like a little fast for me. The other thing that was kind of fast for me was like the romance. I didn't think there was going to be like actual romance. I thought maybe it would just be like maybe a little intimacy and that's it, because the history that our main character has with like men kind of made it seem like there wasn't any interest in a serious relationship. So I don't know, that kind of like threw me in for a loop for a little bit. But aside from just like the fast-paced romance and sort of the graphic trauma, I think the author did a really good job in having conversations about conservation, both like how they can have impacts positively on the environment, but also negative impacts, because part of the book, NT, our main character, just like has anxiety about bringing these wolves into a new environment and what reactions she will get from the locals. And she was just worried, like, am I just bringing these wolves to die? Because if they are found like hunting their livestock or harming people, like her and her team have to put down those wolves. So I think there's just like overall in the book, there's just like this anxiety and suspense about, did the wolves do something, or are they responsible for any of the violence that is happening in throughout the book? I don't know. I think it was like a really good way to just have open conversations about both of that. Like, yes, we should always do our job to make our, impact on the world as minimal as possible, but also the ways that we go about trying to be a green thumb in the world. Is it like, are we having a good impact or are we not? I would recommend the book. I'm probably going to read her book, the one that went popular, what was it called? Wild Dark Shore. I think those are all of my thoughts. I read it pretty fast. I really enjoyed how short it was. I think it was like 250 something pages in total. And then this morning, I did start My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. This is a book about two women. I think they're in Italy. They are childhood friends, not lifelong, because I actually don't know if they've stayed friends, but they're childhood friends. And the book begins, I don't think this is a spoiler, the book begins with one of the characters just like disappears. She literally does not leave a trace of herself anywhere in her home. And the son is calling the other friend to be like, hey, my mom's been missing for like 2 weeks, 4 weeks or something like that. And he's just trying to get information from her to see if she knows anything as to why she disappeared suddenly and where she could have possibly went. I just started this. I'm maybe 10 pages in. It starts on like page 19, so I do have to read until page 119 to do my 100 pages. And then there's also like an index of characters because I think this will help because they don't like some of them like don't refer to each other as their given name. And then there's also several of like repetitive names in here. I've heard only great things about this series. I think it's a quartet. It is a quartet. It says quartet on it. So I'm really excited to get into this. Also, this is a book for my Women in Translation month for August. From what I know, Elena Ferrante is also not her name. I think she just goes by an alias, so we don't even know what the author's name is. But yeah, I might need a little bit of caffeine, even though it's almost 3 o'clock, because I just cannot keep my focus, and I'm probably have to lock my phone out of social media today because I cannot just stay on task and my mind is not here. I'm going to try to read. My brother-in-law made dinner, so we're going to go over to my sister's house and eat, and then I'm going to do my best to read the 90 pages today. I'm going to go ahead and lock my phone from social media. This is what I use. The NFC chip is behind here. This is the little Miffy I crocheted like last year, 2 years ago maybe. So I'm gonna go ahead and lock my phone. Please scan. There we go. So yeah, I'm locked out. Guys, this book is so good so far. So I did read my 100 pages barely last night. I was reaching almost midnight before I reached page 119. I think it was like 11 o'clock. A lot of time got away from me yesterday, so it was really hard to quickly finish this book before I ran out of time. I am on page 143 now. I read some this morning. I have a little bit of work to do in a minute, so I'm not going to be able to get to this until like later in the night. I think because I read Abigail not that long ago by Magda Szabo, the themes and the sort of like friendships and stuff feel very similar. Not in a like they like are copying each other in any way, but the way that the writer is just talking about, you know, growing up, girlhood, and like childhood friendships and being young and kind of, this is not during wartime, but it is post World War II, where Abigail, it was during wartime. So there is just like a little bit of a similar sort of dynamic in terms of the state of the world. This is in the 1950s in Italy, and if I'm not mistaken, that's sort of when they are trying to like rebuild their country because Italy was such a key player in World War II. They saw a lot of devastation, a lot of ruin, and so to keep morale up and to also find ways to become like a better country and then also to innovate during that time. I think, we're kind of seeing that in this book. It's very like in the background, like, and I really like that. And I'm sure as time continues on, we're going to see a little bit more of that being established. The relationship between Elena and Lena, which are the two girls in this book, their relationship is like a little bit complicated, and their like friendship is not very like stereotypical of like a female friendship. It feels like a little bit accurate in the way that there is like a little bit of competitiveness between the two of them. But also there's like a toxicity of them or one of them trying to like monopolize each other's time and not wanting to lose their spot as like the best friend or like the only friend, and like also to keep each other's interest going. So in that way, it feels very accurate in early childhood, especially whenever you're making friends. And there's always just like a little bit of that, like you want to kind of keep them close, but also like you don't want to lose out to them, if that makes sense. But I am enjoying that aspect of the story. I was a little bit hesitant because a few months ago, I did read the first like chapter of this, and I don't know, I wasn't really into it. Lately, I feel like my genres have been just like a little bit different in what I pick up. And this is, I don't know, after reading Abigail and loving Abigail by Magda Szabo and just wanting to be in that world, this is kind of almost hitting that spot for me. So I'm really looking forward to reading more of this tonight. But again, I do have to work a little bit. I thought I would be really bored because again, it's not like there's anything that is going on in this book. There's not like a main plot. It's just the two girls and almost like the community. Also, we're getting a lot of I think it's like a small town, like a small village in Italy, because they don't live in a city center. I think they live outside of Naples. Or you get a lot of drama between the families, among the entire community, and just like within all of the friend groups as well. So we're not like only focusing on the two girls, but it does feel like they are the main point in this book. You do have to get everyone else's sort of narrative or their place in their story to give a little bit more context of the relationship between the two. This book is not like these two girls are, holding hands all the time and it's us against the world. Some moments it is like that. Other moments, I'm like, are they even friends? Do they even like each other? It's an interesting dynamic, and I feel like it's so true when you are having these like young adolescent relationships and you're just kind of like, you're intrigued by someone and you want to keep the intrigue. Like you want to keep their intrigue in you because you feel like they're such a like interesting, cool person. And if you feel like you're not that interesting and cool, you have to do these things to make sure that like you stay on their radar. So I have to read until 219. I think that's the page because I read up until 119 yesterday. So this is how much I have to read today. Again, with this book being a little bit more dense, I feel like it does take a little bit longer. Again, I usually read 30 pages in an hour, but I think this takes me a little bit longer. I'll just have to kind of make sure I set aside enough time. So that's probably going to take me, I would say, like 2.5 hours to read that 100 pages. I'm gonna finish up my workday and then try to read as much as possible.
It's 10 o'clock and I still have 40 pages to read to hit my 100-page goal.
I didn't think this challenge would be super difficult, but I am finding myself struggling to do the 100 pages or doing it right before midnight. I did read my 100 pages yesterday. I read a little bit more, like what, 2-3 pages over. I read a little bit this morning, maybe like 10 pages. So last night, I think I ended on 223, and then now I have to read until 323, which is basically the end of this book. So I'm just gonna try to finish this last third of the book today. I ended up working last night and I didn't get done till like maybe like 8. I really didn't start reading until maybe like 8:39. So then it took me like almost 3 hours, like 2.5 hours ish to read like the 80 pages I had left. Wow, there's a fire going on over there. No wonder I was smelling smoke. Anyways, I'm trying to get a chunk of this done earlier so that if I do have to read, tonight, I'm not like rushing to get it done. I don't think I have much of an update in terms of what's going on because, again, this is not a very plot-driven book. It's very character-driven. We are getting more into Lila's like family life and sort of the struggles that she's seeing in the changes of her brother. So in the very beginning of this book, her brother is like her number one, supporter, fan, whatever you want to call it. And he was like really pushing his parents to make sure that she like goes into school. Now he is like being very violent towards her. He's like very aggressive to strangers and to like his own parents. And so Lila is just sort of seeing the changes in him that she didn't think would happen. So therefore she is sort of having sort of like a crisis in terms of the reality that she knew versus what is actually happening. I guess like his attitude is like very flip-flop. So like some days he'll be like really like, oh my God, I love you, you're my sister. And then the next like, hour, he's just like berating her. Yeah, she's just having a lot of struggles. And then also she is kind of being forced into an engagement with someone that she like really didn't like. Like she literally had like a knife to his throat at one point. And because he's coming from like a rich family, her family is wanting her to pursue and like be nice to him so that they can like all live a comfortable life, but she really does not like him. Elena, the other friend, is like I don't know where she is exactly in Italy. She's on like the beach side and she's spending the summer with her old teacher's like friend. It seems like she's like having the time of her life. Like she's cleaning, cooking a little bit, but then she spends the rest of her day like, walking around the beach and like reading and just kind of being away from a lot of what is happening in her neighborhood. Elena is away from all of that drama. And so then she is, of course, like missing her friend, but also having this complicated relationship of being like, am I happier without being with her all the time, like constantly? So like, it's just like this interesting dynamic between the two, and especially like how much she sees herself as an individual with Lila. So, she feels like she's coming into her own, but then also is like, I don't know who I am without her. At the end of her trip there, she cut her trip early. It kind of took me by surprise a little bit of what happened. And I was just like, ew, like, ugh. Like, of course a man has to ruin it. So right now she is reunited with Lila. Lila like was going through some hard times without Elena there. And so now they're just kind of like together again. We're getting more into their teenage years, adolescence years. And then like, you learn a little bit about how they are becoming, young women going through puberty, dealing with teenagers and things like that. There was one part in here, I should have highlighted it, and it said something like, oh my God, it was so funny. I want to see if I can find it, actually. Oh, it said, a period of unhappiness began. I got fat. And I'm like, I feel that. Yo, I feel that. I'm going to finish this book today. Again, I got maybe a third of it left. And then I think that's going to be the end of the challenge once I finish this book. Let's see if I can finish My Brilliant Friend by the end of today. This will be my final update for this challenge of reading 100 pages a day, and I would like to report that I did successfully read every day 100 pages for 5 days. I did finish reading My Brilliant Friend last night, and as I was reading it, I discovered that I've been saying Leela's name wrong. I've been saying Lila. I think it's Leela. The only reason why is because when I was reading it, I was like, huh, her other name that she goes by is Lena. So I was like, why Lila? And then I'm like, maybe it's Leela. So it's like Leela, Lena. And then I was like looking it up on TikTok to see if, I could figure out how to pronounce her name. And I didn't realize that a lot of people really don't like this first book, which I'm quite shocked about. Everyone was saying that, not everyone, but a lot of people were just saying that they didn't really understand why this was like the best book. And they thought it was like very boring and very mundane. And I get that because yes, a lot of it is very character driven. And when you're in the head of Elena, sometimes you can get annoyed or not really understanding why she has like specific thoughts or like thinks very selfishly sometimes, which I'm like, she's like a young girl and she's having these thoughts and feelings in a time in Italy where, it's like a war torn country. The village that she's in is like suffering through poverty. And so I think, right, like when you're at that age, you're just trying to grasp for anything to kind of ground you. So yeah, a lot of people just didn't really like this book. I can kind of see why. And the reason is because when I was reading this book, especially in the first 100 pages, I immediately thought there's no way I can listen to this on audiobook because my thoughts would wander and I would not be paying attention. So I strictly did not listen to this on audiobook just because I knew I would not be paying attention and it would feel much more boring to me, I think. Again, a lot of my thoughts are more of the same throughout this video that I really love this book. When I looked at the rest of the series, I think this might be like the lowest rated book, partially because of like popularity and people are like giving it low ratings, not continuing the series. But I've heard from people that this first book is like not their favorite. Like they don't consider this like a 5-star, but the whole series in itself is a 5-star. So I'm very excited to get the last of the 3 books. So I do have a surprise book that I did finish, which is The White Book by Han Kang. I'm not saying I had like a difficult time with this book in terms of like it not being written well. I think it's the opposite. It was written so well that I was having a hard time grasping and understanding. Part of it is this is like a very personal, a very raw part of her where she is trying to write and describe the feeling of grief through the color white and exploring that and what white means to her. So this book is sort of in response to her grief about losing a older sibling within a few hours of being born. It juggles like the complicated feeling of not being there when she was born and then also like the quiet understanding of if her sister had, you know, made it through and lived, that the writer, the author would probably not be in this world. It was just like so beautifully written, and the objects or like even the descriptions of things that she was using to write about, like because all of it is rooted in the color white and things that are the color of white, so like bandages, pebbles, fog. And so she like has a little poem or some type of short writing describing that, but also like weaving in her experience with grief and her understanding of it. So it was just very delicate and the writing was still very beautiful. So I would highly recommend reading this if you're new to her writing, but also it is such a short book. And I don't know, it just like has really great writing in it. I haven't read anything else by her, so I am very excited to kind of explore more of her books, her writing. And then, yeah, those are the 2 books I finished last night. Again, this challenge is like really fun for me, and I'm glad I was able to finish 3 books in this video. I finished Once There Were Wolves, My Brilliant Friend, and The White Book. And all of them are new to me authors. 2 of them are for my Women in Translation month, which are these 2. I thought, this was a success for me, and I'm so happy to have actually done the 100 pages, even though some of it was a little bit challenging. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed watching this reading vlog challenge, and maybe I'll continue doing more types of challenges. I don't know. But yeah, I will see you guys next time. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Also, on another note, terrible news. Dolly Parton passed away, unfortunately. I'm going to be donating to the Imagination Library, which is her little organization that she has set up with like local nonprofits to send books out to kids. I think it's like from ages like from like age like when they're a few months old up until like 5 years. They send a book every month to a kid, to several kids around the nation. I think even around the world. So I am going to be donating some money in honor of Dolly Parton because she has done really great work in trying to keep literacy rate up. So I'm going to leave a link down below if you do want to donate to the Imagination Library, or, just donate to any other organizations, your local libraries, etc., etc. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.